Imagine this: a missile streaks across the night sky at 5 times the speed of sound, targeting a hidden enemy compound halfway across the world. There's no pilot. No local intelligence. Just cold, pinpoint accuracy. Suddenly, the missile changes course mid-flight, because someone, thousands of miles away, pressed a button. That button? It's wired to a satellite in orbit. And that satellite? It's part of the United States military GPS system, the most powerful and precise navigational tool ever created by man. But here's the shocker: while the world thinks GPS is a public good, in the theater of war, it's anything but. The United States controls it. Fully. Unapologetically. And it can switch it off at will. Welcome to the secret war above our heads. We live in a world where most people take GPS for granted. It gets us to work, helps us find the nearest coffee shop, and powers every rideshare, delivery, and drone on Earth. But behind that convenience is a history soaked in military ambition, strategic paranoia, and the raw hunger for global dominance. GPS isn't just about maps. It's a weapon. A silent weapon. And it's been that way from the very beginning. The Global Positioning System, those 3 innocent letters, GPS, was born during the Cold War. It wasn't built for your smartphone. It was engineered by the Pentagon, in secret, to give US forces godlike vision over the battlefield. After the Soviet Union launched Sputnik in 1957, the US was shaken. Not just because the Russians got to space first, but because they proved that space could become the next war zone. The idea was simple: whoever owned the sky, owned the Earth. So in the 1970s, the Department of Defense began developing Navstar, the backbone of what we now call GPS. By the 1990s, the full 24 satellite constellation was operational. And while the government began offering civilian access in the early 80s, it did so with deliberate degradation. That feature was called selective availability. Translation? The public got a fuzzy signal. The military kept the crystal clear version. This wasn't just technical policy. It was strategic dominance. Because in combat, precision isn't a luxury, it's survival. A bomb that lands 30 feet off target is a tragedy. One that hits the bullseye? That's victory. GPS gave American forces a kind of battlefield clairvoyance. It meant cruise missiles could slip through alleyways in Baghdad. It meant Navy SEALs could land on rooftops with surgical precision. And most importantly, it meant every enemy force that lacked access to military-grade GPS was essentially fighting blind. So why does the US still control it? Because war hasn't gone away. It's evolved. In the post-9/11 era, conflicts are no longer fought in trenches. They're waged in data centers, across oceans, with unmanned drones and cyber weapons. GPS is now the bloodstream of modern warfare. It powers communications, coordinates logistics, and guides everything from reconnaissance aircraft to robotic bomb disposal units. It's not just a support tool. It's command and control. Now, here's where the story takes a darker turn. Because while the US insists it would never abuse its GPS monopoly, the fact remains, it could. At any moment, the military can deny access to precise GPS signals in specific regions. It can geofence accuracy. It can mislead. It can misdirect. In a worst-case scenario, it could make you think you're here, when you're really over there. And in war, that difference is fatal. Just ask the Iraqis. During both Gulf Wars, American GPS superiority was absolute. US smart weapons rained down with terrifying accuracy. Iraqi forces had to rely on outdated Soviet maps and analog compasses. It was a slaughter. Not because the Iraqis were weak, but because the Americans had eyes in the sky, and a navigation system that made them unstoppable. Of course, other countries noticed. Russia and China, in particular, were alarmed. Not just because the US had a technological edge, but because it had a kill switch. If the US didn't like what you were doing, it could simply flip the switch, and boom, your missiles miss, your tanks can't coordinate, your army goes dark. So they built their own systems. Russia developed GLONASS. China launched Beidou. The European Union built Galileo. But here's the uncomfortable truth: none of them can truly compete with the American GPS. Why? Because GPS isn't just satellites. It's a sprawling network of ground stations, monitoring centers, encrypted signals, and decades of refinement. It's backed by a military budget that dwarfs entire national economies. And it's battle-tested. GLONASS has coverage gaps. Beidou is improving fast, but still lacks the robustness of GPS in contested environments. Galileo is a civilian system, not designed for warfare. That makes GPS not just the oldest system, but the deadliest. Even America's allies are wary. During conflicts in the Middle East, several NATO members quietly requested continued access to the full precision GPS signal. The Pentagon agreed, but with caveats. Because at the end of the day, GPS is an American asset. If you're not on the list, you're not getting the keys. That's the cold, strategic calculus of battlefield navigation. Now picture this: a future war erupts, not with bullets, but with binary. A cyber attack cripples global GPS. Satellites are spoofed or jammed. Missiles veer off course. Drones plummet from the sky. This isn't science fiction. It's the scenario war planners are preparing for right now. And it's why the US military is pouring billions into hardened GPS infrastructure, encrypted signals like M-code, and next-gen navigation tech like quantum sensors and inertial systems that don't rely on satellites at all. The battlefield of tomorrow will be fought in milliseconds. Whoever controls the signal, wins. And right now, that control still belongs to the United States. But here's the final twist: even as the US clings to GPS supremacy, the system it created is becoming a potential liability. Why? Because it's so good, so reliable, and so essential that everyone depends on it, including America's enemies. That makes GPS a giant target. In future wars, the first shots may not be fired with guns, but with invisible waves. Jammers. Spoofers. Lasers. One well-placed missile could blind half the planet. And yet, despite the threat, America continues to lead. Not because it owns the most satellites. Not even because it has the best tech. But because it built the architecture of trust, backed by the force of might. For now. So the next time you check your phone to find directions, remember this: you're using a weapon. A relic of the Cold War. A ghost in the sky. And while it may seem harmless, it sits at the heart of the most powerful military empire the world has ever known. Because in the end, GPS isn't just about where you are. It's about who gets to decide. And as long as the stars in that constellation fly the American flag, the United States will remain the invisible hand guiding every battlefield on Earth.